the roll call. I don't know how our secretary wants to do this.
We could do it just by calling out the names, I guess. I'm not sure if the raising hands worked out last time very well.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay, I'll let you go ahead.
All right, so Dylan,
Here.
Carolyn,
Here.
Harrison,
Here.
Will,
Here.
Adele, oh, he's not here today. Akwe,
Here.
Aziza Malik,
Here.
Carlos,
Here.
Daniel. Okay, Giovanna. I believe she also is not here today. Okay, Miriam Habib.
Here.
Miriam William.
Here.
Mira Desai.
Here.
Afnan.
Here.
Naveen.
Here.
Robert.
Here.
Sakita.
Present.
Sweta.
Here.
Tanvi.
Here.
Tonanzit.
Here.
Zahra.
Here.
Brianna. Brianna. Okay, Camila. Camila. Okay, Ken Nelson. Ricky.
Here.
Sarah.
Here.
All right, and that's the end.
Okay, thank you, Secretary, for doing the roll call. So the minutes are now publicly available. If you guys have issue accessing any of the Google Drive links, let me know. But if there is no objection, we'll be approving the minutes from last meeting. That is September 28th. All right, hearing no objection, the meetings from our September 28th general body meeting have been approved. Now, I know that we have a couple of guests here today, so I would like to hear a motion to lay on the table if the Senate allows, so that we can move and have our speakers present.
Motion.
Okay, fantastic. So it has been moved to lay on the table. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Okay, so it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Aye.
Fantastic. The ayes have it. So I know we have the director of the Office of Community Standards here, Dean Hockday, as well as Dr. Leipold. So Dean Hockday or Dr. Leipold, if you're here and you would like to turn your video on or speak, we'd love to recognize you. Hello, Dr. Leipold.
Hi, everybody. How are you?
Doing well, thank you.
Thank you for having me today. I really appreciate it. Hi, Ms. Hockaday.
Hello.
How are you doing? Long time no see.
Yes, I'm good. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me today as well.
Hello, thank you for coming.
Of course, thank you. So if Hockday, if you would like to start just talking about, I know there are a couple issues with academic integrity and stuff that came up. If if you could speak about that.
Hi, so again, thank you for inviting me to your meeting. Sorry, I was distracting. Someone knocked on my door. So I was asked to talk about GroupMe, right? And the relation of GroupMe to potentially leading to academic integrity violations. So I think I'll start by saying that GroupMe, like any other type of platform, can't be used to violate the principles of the academic integrity policy. So thinking about within that policy, it outlines that all information that a student submits, whether that be in a paper, a quiz, or an exam, has to be their own work, and that there can't be any, collaboration that has not been approved by the instructor. So I think probably the most relevant provision of the integrity policy that relates to, I think, some of the questions is the facilitation of dishonesty. So if you look in the policy, it states that facilitation is deliberately or carelessly allowing one's work to be used by other students without prior approval of an instructor. So it also gives a few examples, which aren't all inclusive, but it gives you a little bit more of a better understanding of what is meant by facilitation. So for example, this can include collaborating before an exam to develop methods in which to exchange information. So I think this is where, if you're using text messaging, GroupMe, any type of platform to collaborate about an exam, coordinate answering questions together, and that collaboration is not something that has been outlined by the instructor as something that is permissible, that's where a student could be facing an allegation of an academic integrity violation. So I think also thinking about academic integrity and maybe being in a situation where if you as a student were named in the allegation, I would say first and foremost, you receive information that kind of gives you an overview of what the allegation is. So once you get that initial notification, it doesn't mean that you've been found responsible yet. It means that there's been an allegation, so the university is going to be doing an investigation. So I would encourage any student to start gathering your information, start gathering your questions. So if you feel as though you did not violate that policy, if you have any supporting information, documentation, any witnesses, that investigator wants to hear your side and they want to hear your information, because like I said, there's been an allegation, but that doesn't mean that, case is closed, you've already been found responsible. So bring your information to that meeting, bring your questions and concerns to that meeting as well. Engage with that investigator throughout the process and make sure that, they're sharing information with you about what your rights are so that you can make sure that you're accurately exercising them. There is an opportunity to request a campus advisor. That's someone that's kind of trained on policy that students can go to who are going through a process to asking questions. So maybe if there's something you don't want to talk directly to the investigator about, you can request a campus advisor as someone to kind of talk through things with, ask questions to. So I wanted to make that note because that's very important. Make sure you know what your rights are in a process and make sure that you're exercising your rights and that you're engaging with the investigation. There was also a question about what the evidentiary standard is. So for all cases, academic integrity, conduct cases, it is preponderance of information. So that is the standard that the investigator is going to be using to determine whether or not there's enough supporting information to go ahead and charge a student. Even if a student is charged, then there's also additional option to appeal. So that's where you want to make sure you know what your rights are and that you're exhausting all those rights within the policy that you as a student feel is appropriate. So you still have the opportunity to submit an appeal as well. I know there was also a question about being expelled, right? So expulsion is the highest level of sanction that can be received for being found responsible of an academic integrity violation, code of conduct violation. I will say that in my 3 years in community standards, I have not seen a student get expelled. So I would say that it would, not that it never could happen, it's not something that happens very lightly. So it would have to be a very, I guess, serious level of case for that to happen. But this is where you also want to be engaging with that process, right, and asking those questions. So if there's a concern about whether or not this is potentially something that could lead for separation, whether that be suspension that student has, talk to the investigator about that. Talk to your campus advisor about that to get more informed. In that initial conversation, there usually is a point where the investigator will say, you know, these are what the potential outcomes of this case may be based off the information that I have in front of me so far. So I think that if there's a concern about whether or not you can be separated, you should definitely be asking those questions of your advisor or of the investigator. If you're in a situation where maybe there are others who may be violating policy, right? I would say that if you look within the academic integrity policy, if you look in the code of conduct, it does encourage, very strongly encourage, you know, speaking up and sharing that information. I know that that can be a very uncomfortable position for a student to be in, but if you are in a class, a chat, whatever type of situation where that may be, and there is a concern about your presence in that space, think about removing yourself from those spaces and thinking about reporting to the proper authority. So whether that be the instructor, maybe you need to talk to your academic advisor if you're unsure, but I would say if it's about a classroom space, you can always report to the professor or instructor about what is happening. Because you're concerned about being in that space, you don't want to be seen as contributing to any potential violations. And also you want to make sure that all your classmates are upholding the principles of that academic integrity policy, because that is, you know, the expectations of the university and of making sure that the community is one in which we are all following, you know, the guidelines. I think I touched on everything that I was asked about, but if I didn't, or if you need clarification, you know, please let me know.
Mr. Speaker, may I be recognized?
Harrison, you're muted.
My apologies. My apologies. I was moving around a bit. Of course, recognized.
First, I just want to say again, thank you so much, Dean Hockaday, for joining us today and, you know, clarifying these things for us. Just one question that I had, just as a point of clarification. So I know you said that the guidelines highly encourage students to speak out if they see any of these violations take place. If a student chooses not to do so, are they implicated in the actions? Would they be able to be found guilty for them as well, simply for being there? Or what would that process look like?
I think it's going to depend on the specifics. So if it is, you know, some sort of a group situation, if looking at I think all the folks in that group are going to be called in and questioned. And I think that's where, if you are a student who you feel as though you did not engage, you feel as though you didn't violate the letter of what is written in that specific violation of facilitation, that's when you're explaining that to the investigator what your specific role is, and bringing any supporting information that you have to kind of uphold that. But I think if you're thinking about everyone in that space, if something was happening in that space, everyone in that space is going to be called in. And then, but that's where I said that that doesn't initially mean that you are automatically going to be found responsible. This is where you explain kind of how you came to be in that space and what it was that you did or didn't do.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mr. Chairman, can be recognized.
Of course, recognized.
Hi, Dean Hockaday. Thank you for clarifying that information. This is Carolyn, Vice President. So I just wanted to clarify, because like a lot of students have been confused on just like being in a group chat. You know, since we're in COVID right now and classes are online, students have been creating these group chats to kind of like keep themselves up to date with information. You know, like tell them if there's like a homework coming up or an exam coming up. There isn't really a violation if they are part of a group chat and like reminding themselves of these updates. But it would only be a violation if, like, for say, they sent quiz answers or like exam answers. And I know you kind of mentioned this before, but like they wouldn't just be automatically expelled if, for say, someone were to send quiz answers, because there was like information circulating around about like students being expelled for that. Like there would be, you know, distinct steps like you mentioned before.
Yes. So there would be a process with that. If you look within university policies, there are certain situations where we're talking about potential danger to the community, right? Where someone can be immediately removed. But typically when we're talking about academic integrity violations, allegation cheating, facilitation, there's a process. So there's an investigation and then a determination is made, and then there's the opportunity to appeal. So there's a lot of steps involved where a student can kind of present their side before, you know, the outcome is enacted. So yes, so short answer, no, you wouldn't just automatically be expelled.
Perfect, thank you. And it would be okay for them to be a part of a group chat if it was just for like, you know, regular updates and stuff.
Yeah, I think any kind of conversation, interaction, communication, if there's no policy violation happening, then yes. But I think once if any kind of platform starts to be utilized in a way where there's conversation about violating university policies, then that's where you're going to run into potentially a report happening and everyone kind of having to answer for their participation in that space.
Okay, I understand. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, permission to be recognized.
Of course,
Thank you. So there have been like some talks, and I've heard some professors say that they are putting themselves in some of these group chats, as well as maybe TAs or LAs or something. I was wondering if that's allowed, because obviously like some of these group chats don't violate the code of integrity, but it should still be a safe space for students. I was wondering if they're allowed to be in these like group chats.
So are you saying so that like, are they requesting to be part of your group chats?
Some of them are just joining without, I don't know if they have joined or if like they're still in the process of joining, but it's just some of the emails that I've read has inferred kind of that they might be in these group chats, and they don't confirm it, just to like not give students the upper hand, I guess. So I just wanted to know if that's fair, if they are in the group chat, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think that would be something that I think a separate conversation. I would like to know a little bit more about that. I think there's also in the chat I see about assuming a false identity to join a chat. So I do think that is something that warrants a conversation. So I think that if there's anyone having a specific concern about that, we can talk about the ways to best kind of navigate that conversation, maybe with your academic dean or academic advisor.
Okay, thank you.
I also want to ask, I know you mentioned that students who are appealing or like going undercover, sorry. Students who are appealing or involved in addressing these allegations, they have the right of counsel. Is that confidential, like what they express to the counselor, like, or whoever's advising them on policy?
Okay, it's the campus advisor. I would say that it is not confidential, because when we use the word confidential, there are only like very few like true confidential resources on campus. So thinking about counseling services, BPVA, health services. In talking with your campus advisor, I would say that those are private conversations, but if you're sharing information where there's a potential life threat or concern to the community, that would be something that that person, as a employee of Rutgers University, there are certain things that they would have to share, but it's generally like a space for students to talk out things. So how I've seen it a lot where maybe the case is going to appeal and the student has written out an appeal statement. They ask their campus advisor to review it, to maybe give them some feedback, helping to make sure that they are conveying maybe everything that they wanted to convey, making sure that they know how the process is supposed to work. So if your case is going to a hearing, knowing how the hearing is formatted, knowing that you can bring witnesses into the hearing, that's the campus advisor can kind of help with that and give general feedback. I mean, I think it's a place to be upfront about what your role in the situation was, and then kind of talk about how best to kind of respond to the process. But, you know, there are situations that as a Rutgers representative employee of the institution, you may have to report certain things that are shared with you that all employees would have to.
Sorry, there's a link in the chat. Is that the correct one for the Office of Community Standards?
Yes, it looks like it. So that's the page that has information about the code of conduct, academic integrity policy, and kind of like some general like FAQ type information.
Okay, thank you. Are there any further questions for Dean Hockaday?
If I might be recognized one more time, I'm so sorry.
Of course.
Okay, Dean Hockaday, thank you again. Just if any additional students who might be watching the live stream right now and hasn't posted their questions, or if they might be watching the recording later, have any questions for you, what would be the best way for them to be able to contact you or your office to ask these questions?
So the office can be reached via email at communitystandards@newark.rutgers.edu.
Awesome, thank you so much.
No problem.
All right, thank you again for taking the time. If no one has any further questions, we don't want to take up any more of your time. And you can always reach the email just mentioned or the website. Thank you, Dean Hockaday.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, take care.
All
right. Let me see. Dr. Leipold, thank you for being patient and waiting. Dr. Leipold's from the Chancellor's office, and he is the Vice Chancellor for enrollment. So I know you want to present. I'm sorry, we had like a couple scheduling issues, but we'd love to hear you now.
Thank you, Harrison. I appreciate that. And thank you, everybody, for having me today. I wanted to come and just let you know kind of what we've been doing over the summer and kind of where we are. But first, I want to start out by thanking the SGA for their generous contributions to help our community as it relates to students and emergency funding. Our students continue to be in need and continue to reach out. And so we are so honored that you all have been a part of supporting your undergraduate community. So thank you so much for that. A little update. So as of today, we have awarded more than $900,000 in institutional funds. That's a combination of funds provided by numerous dean's offices, undergraduate SGA, graduate SGAs, all the the professional schools, and a number of institutional funds to support our students who are seeking support during this time. That does not include the CARES Act funding. That's correct, Dylan. The CARES Act funding, which is federal funding, which was put together by legislation from the Congress, was provided to the institution. And at that particular point, we were awarded a little over $5.8 million. Today, we have awarded almost $5.6 million, which includes the spring, as well as the current funding for fall. Unfortunately, those fundings from the CARES Act does not cover, based upon the Department of Education regulations, does not cover students who are undocumented, documented, and or international. So the institution, with the leadership of Chancellor Cantor, decided to put aside funds to ensure that we could support those students who could not qualify for the CARES Act funds. So part of the institutional $900,000 has been going to support those students in that kind of specifics. As you can imagine, as one of the most diverse campuses in the United States, we thought it was critically important to be able to support all of our students, even though the Department of Education federally sought to not provide funding or not provide eligibility for funding for all students. We have been communicating with students, as you know, through email and through Run for Success, as well as through different dean's offices. What I can say to you is one of the things that we started to understand, and I think we've all kind of gotten into email fatigue at this particular point. Soon as COVID, we were already in email fatigue before COVID began. And after COVID happened on March 13th and we all went remote, which now for over 6 months, it feels like we're answering more tons of emails. And sometimes we seem to see students overlooking that. So we're getting a number of calls from students as well as emails that we respond to as quickly as we can to help students understand what we can do. At the same time, the chancellor has been, in our funding, put across sides for help students to potentially pay down outstanding term bills. So for the spring, we provided RU Cares, which is, again, federal funds for students who had outstanding balances for the spring. And we are getting ready to do that again in the fall with other funding. It's called the second tranche of the CARES Act funds to be able to help and support those students. Again, we will take some portion of that funding percentage-wise to be able to help our documented, undocumented, and our international students. As we've gone through kind of this year, I wanted to give you a little bit of update about where we are in our enrollment. So overall, our enrollment at Rutgers University Newark, which includes both undergraduates and graduates, is down a little over 2% as opposed to this time last year, which is not horrible. All the enrollment information that was out there, as you saw that Harvard was down 20% with their incoming class. A number of community colleges have been down across the United States. Folks were projecting anywhere from 7 to 10% up to 20% decline in enrollments. We are lucky to have only a 2% enrollment decline. And I say that talks to the resilience of our scholars, that talks to the resilience of our students who are here and our student groups being able to ensure that students are continuing their education. At the same time, for our first year class, just so you know, our new students or freshmen was down about 1.6% off of our enrollment goal, which is not horrible. We've exceeded our transfer goal this year. So good for us in that. And we are only 8 students off of our mark between first years and transfers in terms of our incoming students. So we are happy to see that kind of movement. We did not expect to see as many transfer students, so we were excited to see that this year. So overall, we're not doing horrible. As you can imagine, there are a number of declines in international students and a number of international students who sought to defer for the spring semester and or the fall semester because being 12 hours away in a different country and having to get on class at 6 a.m. or having to be at class at like 2 a.m. in the morning, they decided that wasn't in their best that wasn't the best experience for them, so they decided to defer. And so we are working on those deferments. Part of the deferments are also related to students being able to attain visas because embassies are closed due to COVID and or emergency appointments. We can also hypothesize and or speak around some of the current restrictions that our government has put into place around some of those areas, but the majority of our students are really seeing the inability to travel based upon COVID, or the inability to kind of get their visas to be able to do that. We're hoping, but we're not completely sure what spring will look like. As you know, the public health guidance around the globe talks about a potential increase based upon the winter coming on, and we're starting to see some of that play out in different countries in Europe as well as different countries in Asia. So we're just waiting at this particular point to kind of see what the guidance will be for spring with regards to our international students who are studying from abroad. I wanted to provide you some changes that we made to the one-stop enrollment services for the offices of financial aid, student accounting, cashiering, as well as registrar for over the summer. So we only exist because students are here. We only exist to serve students. And so in that space, it was really important to be able to find out how we could pivot to be able to meet students' needs. So one of the things that we did implement was a virtual counter. So a virtual counter, you can make your appointment on MyRun, and it's on Mondays and Wednesdays and Tuesdays and Thursdays. One of those days is in the morning, one of those days in the afternoon. I'm sorry, I just want blank on which one's which. But what you do is you come in, you have your schedule, you tell us why you're visiting. Most of the times we go through, we vet everybody who's signed up, because one of those visits may just be a one-off, and we will text you on the side and or email you on the side to see if we can have a one-on-one Zoom meeting to kind of resolve that as quickly as we can. If you are accepted and confirmed for your virtual meeting, virtual counter meeting, you virtually arrive like you would on the third floor. You have a waiting room, you check in with one of our one-stop counselors. They may be able to help you one-on-one and resolve the issue right there, or they may put you into a breakout room with a financial aid person, a student accounting person, or a registrar person. As you can imagine, this semester, we're finding a lot of financial aid and student accounting issues. Rather than having students bounce back and forth between student accounting and financial aid, we also have what we call a huddle room, which brings together students, and I see Robert Jones right in front of my face in terms of stairs. So if Robert were visiting the third floor and Robert had an issue virtually in terms of being able to do that, we would say, hey, Robert, we're going to put you into a huddle room, which contains a financial aid counselor or a financial aid staff member, as well as a student accounting staff member. So the three of them can work together to be able to resolve kind of what issue, because I know sometimes students felt like they were getting bounced back and forth. That actually matches what we want to do in the new physical one-stop when it's built in Conklin Hall. We have a number of huddle rooms set up so we can pull the appropriate teams together so that students don't feel like they're going back and forth between counters physically. We've also set up a calendar where you can schedule in-person visits to student accounting, cashiering to drop off payment. For financial aid, we have limited in-person, and that is related to dropping off citizenship paperwork so that students don't need to get that notarized, but they can drop that off to be able to kind of send those kind of things out. We updated our contact form. So I'll give you a perfect example. So we would have a student who would be emailing separately the financial aid office, the student accounting office, a number of other offices. And so we actually would have 7 people independently working with that student and not realizing that that student was, one, having 7 people work with them, taking up time, but at the same time, there were different ways to resolve an issue, and they all were taking a different way or a different approach. And so we did it to one contact form, which would make it easier to streamline the approach and the process, and easier for us to keep notes in terms of how we were supporting the student, as opposed to giving conflicting statements about how to kind of do it or different approaches for it. We are getting ready to implement a new case management system come spring. It'll launch the first day of spring class. That will help us to kind of take in everything we've done over the past 3 years, put it into one system. So if Tala emailed us, Tala would be able to email us. It would all go into a system, and it would be great because it would say that Tala and I spoke on this day. This is the information we provide her. This is the follow-up information. And if Tala reached back out and said, hey, I didn't hear from this person. I know right now you all hear. Well, I spoke to somebody, and somebody's like, well, do you know who that was? Well, in the system now, you'll be able to see who that was. And then somebody will be able to help Tala take next steps to kind of resolve it, because there was, as you can imagine, and I know of you all may have experienced, there was too much back and forth that was wasting students' time, as opposed to streamlining our approach to serving and supporting students. We will continue to do WebEx and Zoom on with individual students to resolve issues. Again, in those WebEx and Zooms, outside of our virtual counter, we will continue to pull staff members in together. This morning, we were just on a call with a student around academic advising, financial aid, and student accounting together because they were a little confused about some information that they have and how it all connected. So we're doing a much more case management approach, and I think COVID has kind of pushed for us that immediacy forward to be able to help our students in a different way and to kind of think that through. So I just wanted to kind of bring you those information, those updates, as well as provide you kind of where we are with kind of heading into fall semester. So I am happy to take any questions you all may have.
Thank you, Dr. Lappold. Again, if anyone has any individual questions, we do ask that you defer them to the appropriate services or the one-stop center itself. But since Dr. Lappold is here from the Chancellor's office, if you guys have questions about procedure or what's moving forward, we'd love to hear them. Just ask to be recognized. Are there any questions from the Senate? You can also ask to be recognized in the chat below.
Mr. Chairman, may I ask to be recognized?
Of course, recognize University Senator.
All right, hello. It's actually a really brief question because I actually did have a question about the enrollment size. So do you happen to have the exact figures as to how many undergrads are there currently enrolled at Rutgers University Newark?
So at this particular point, after Are You Here? So let me kind of describe the process. The answer is we have state reporting that's happening right now. So we provided a file to the Office of the University Registrar as well as institutional research for this fall, and there are always a little bit of duplicate numbers. So I can give you the roundabout about where we are right now. I don't want to say it's an official. It's the numbers that we use to kind of give to our central institutional research on Friday, if that's okay. I just want to be clear about the fact that it's not the official number yet.
Sure. Cool.
So when we were looking this year, I'm sorry, I'm pulling it up right now. Don't mean to waste people's times. So in terms of numbers, sorry. So last year we had 9,142 undergraduate students at the university. This year, I'm almost positive it's 1,881, but let me just double check that to make sure I'm giving you the correct information so that I'm not incorrect. Sorry, I'm just pulling up the file right now. So again, the way this university works is, is that we have to give a state, we have to give the institutional research for state reporting. They then, what they call dedupe, making sure they're not counting students multiple times across the system. So last year we had 9,319 undergraduate students. This year we have 9,123 students. That's the unofficial numbers that went down to reporting. What I also will tell you is that that information is subject to change. It may change by a few numbers, but not much more than a few numbers, we hope. The 1,888 that I gave you was actually part of the Are You Here campaign on the 17th. So we were just following up with some other students to make sure that we were okay. Does that make sense to folks?
Yes, thank you.
Are there any other questions for Dr. Lappold? All right, well, thank you very much, Dr. Lappold, for coming and speaking to us. It sounds like there's a lot of great stuff going on behind the scenes. I'd love to see like the new like case management approach and how everything is being streamlined with the offices.
So what I will say is if you need any help, please write to myron@newark.rutgers.edu. Our counselors are on there and we'll forward that. And of course, my email is is bil.leipold@newark.rutgers.edu. I'll put it down below for you, so you have that. And I want to say thank you so much to everybody for your help and your support this year. So hope to see you again soon.
Thank you. Take care now. All right. So thank you to both of our speakers for coming in today. Now we're going to continue on with the agenda with executive board reports. So starting with RUSA and their referendum.
Okay, yeah, so I put the information in the chat, so just for you all to see, just I guess important news, right? So they had multiple referenda questions on there. Again, it's in our group chat. They've also posted it on Instagram, the RUSA Instagram, I believe, their RUSA elections Instagram as well. Yeah, I mean they had like significant turnout, you know, given like COVID and pandemic and everything, but it's because they had so many positions up for the election. They also have their results per like per position and like how many votes. That's also public as well.
Thank you, President. So talking about minutes and agenda accessibility and the change Zoom link, that's just sort of stuff on my end. To give you guys some context, we originally started with the Run SGA account, which was not a premium account. We spent a little bit of money and upgraded for that 1 month before switching over to my student account, which is premium courtesy of Rutgers. So this is the Zoom link that we'll be using moving forwards. Agenda and minutes and everything else should all be available via Google Drive link. Let me know if you have any issues accessing any of that. But please do share them. Like, these are open meetings. We want to encourage students to be involved and be aware of what's going on and be transparent. So everything is available now. I'm going to be adding like previous bills from last semester and trying to create like the record for that in our Google Drive as well, until we have like a better platform or anything like that to share that with. So moving towards committee reports, are there any reports from the Internal Affairs Standing Committee?
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Of course, recognized speaker.
There are no reports to give, sadly. I'm going to start advocating more heavily on people joining the internal affairs. So if any senator wants to join, please let me know, contact me. If you guys want, I can give you like a description on what exactly the committee will be dealing with, and I'll send that in our group chat. And then if you guys want to join, just reach out to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Speaker. I will add the Internal Affairs Committee is incredibly important to what we do as a Senate. Since we are a legislative body, the Internal Affairs Committee sort of serves like as like a regulatory role, and they revise and update the Senate's charter and bylaws as needed. They're also responsible for overseeing like the Elections Committee as well as other committees. So it's very important. If you guys are interested, please do reach out. I'll also be advising the Internal Affairs Committee. Now, are there any reports from the Elections Committee?
Mr. Chairman, may I be recognized?
Recognized.
Thank you. So hi, everyone. So some updates from the Elections Committee. As you know, the Elections Committee is comprised of 5 members so far. Sarah being the chair, I am the secretary. We also have Akwe, Bree, and Socket in our Elections Committee. We have established, you may or may not seen our school-wide email in which we send out to the whole entire school body. And in there we put our office hours, a tentative timeline as to how elections will be conducted, as to when, you know, campaigning, our office hours, our what do you call it, the info sessions, as well as a new thing that we've introduced, which is called the Declaration of Intent So you may remember, for everyone that ran, we collect signatures. We do like a little personal statement, and then we submit it to the Office of Student Life. But being that we are in, online and virtual, we decided to just do a simple declaration of intent, which briefly asks the students, like their name, net ID, their RUID, their class year, position that they're interested in running, their GPA, their contact info, and then a brief personal statement, which we would most likely use on the ballot for the semester, just so that it makes it easier on our end as the committee to already gather this information when we're setting up the ballots, as well as on the student. We don't want to increase any burden or participation in joining like the SGA. We want to be an SGA that kind of, is open to the student body, and we want to bring them in. We want to invite them into the SGA and, be part of, of being a change maker at our school. So we decided to go for a declaration of intent, which is due by Wednesday, 12 p.m. So if you have anyone that that is interested for these open positions, please let your friends or your classmates know. They still have time to submit those. They could just check the email that was sent out on Friday. What else do we got? Same process as it goes. Like we have, we're going to allow endorsements. If students do decide to run on a ticket, they will be allowed to do so as well. A few changes as to campaign materials because everything's going so quick. We, as the elections committee, are going to be approving, campaign materials on a rolling basis. So as soon as they submit that declaration of intent, they can start submitting us election materials for us to approve. And then, as soon as campaigning starts, they can start, advertising their stuff. No changes to the campaign funding that we decided. We decided to keep the same formulas. What else do we got? Our candidate forum will be held Wednesday, October 14th, 2020. We have a Zoom link out ready to go. We will present the link and the brief description as to what a candidate forum entails. If we got candidates to sign up, they will have this opportunity virtually to present themselves to the student body. And voting period, we have discussed some ideas as to how we would be conducting elections. One thing that I saw that we would do differently as like, I guess, an experiment is we're going to try to see, because RadarLink has the ability to do ranked choice voting. We want to see and test it out and see if we can do that for this year's, experiment it and try to conduct that at this year's elections. One, because, we think that ranked choice voting is a very good way to like properly elect someone, as well as, also teaching the student body about like different ways of like participating in our democracy. And so we thought we're thinking about doing something like that, as well as also like in RUSA, when they conduct their elections, like especially when it's campus specific, like only students in that campus can participate on that. So we're also thinking about also doing the same thing for our elections, especially for like, the SPA position that's open. Like we would, I think it would be fair if SPA students elect who their representatives are, and so on and so forth. For the other positions, like new student senators would be, transfer students and first year students, so on and so forth. So we're trying this out now. Nothing's confirmed yet as to whether or not we are going to follow through with all this, but this is all in the talks as to what we have been discussing as a committee and with Dean Williams. And I think that's it. We have 3 dates for the info sessions. Today is actually our first one. You don't have to complete a declaration of intent. So if your friends or anyone is interested in thinking about running or like what it entails to be in the SGA, let them know that there is a what do you call it? A candidate info session today from 5 p.m. to 6:30. I can share the link with all of you. It should also be on the school-wide email as well. We would also have another info session on Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. And then the last one's on Saturday, October 10th from 11:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. So if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Otherwise, thank you.
All right, thank you, Ricky. And thanks to the rest of the elections committee who are working very hard to keep our student government going during these difficult times. Love the plug at run SGA_elections. I'll make sure to follow that after this meeting. And if you have any friends, anyone else who's interested in being involved, please do refer them to elections committee, allocations board, or judicial council. I know we have a couple of nominations later today for that, and it's just some general staff rearrangements. Once again, like I'm sure you guys know this because you are elected representatives who are here at 12:30 on a Monday serving here, but it's incredibly important, you know. We're getting a lot of student funds from students, and we're here to represent the student body as best we can. So thank you. All right, moving forward with the agenda. Just one moment. Okay. So next, after our committee reports, we have a report from the Senate on Ken Nelson, one of our senators. Is there anyone from the Senate who wishes to speak on this issue? Not to introduce any legislation or anything like that, just there was a report request that was filed earlier.
Request to be recognized, Mr. Chairman.
Recognized.
Hi guys, sorry for the little kerfuffle. So regarding Ken Nelson, so we found out that Ken Nelson, give me a minute, guys. Yes, so in 2019, so I'm just gonna put the article in the group chat. So in 2019, you had the Edison teacher, Amy Brooke, who filed a lawsuit against 4 individuals, and one of those individuals was Ken Nelson. Amy Brooke was mistakenly identified as a sex offender with the same name, and Ken Nelson published this. He basically said like these 2 people are the same person on his Facebook page, and as a result, the fact that he published them, the Amy Brooke, who is not a sex offender, who was incorrectly accused of being one, is filing a lawsuit against Ken Nelson and other individuals who claim that they were the same person. And I just have to say that it's just like with Nelson publishing, like falsely publishing that the sex offender and Amy Brooke were the same person, it really did severely damage the woman who was, you know, incorrectly mistaken. And Nelson being part of the lawsuit and having this, I guess, reputation at this moment is concerning. You guys can read the article. I put it in the group chat. And yeah. Any questions?
Thank you, Senator. Unfortunately, during reports, we generally just want to keep it like not to motion or legislative. It's just presenting information. But thank you. The link is in the chat below. Moving along, excuse me. After the Senate reports, we have old business. So we have a request to be excused from one of our senators at large, Daniel. He is requesting to step down from his position. And if you guys take a look at the incidental motions, you'll see the request to be excused. This does not require a second, but it is debatable and amendable. And if there's no discussion from the floor, then we will move to majority votes. Do I hear any discussion from the floor on Daniel, our senator at large's request to be excused? Okay, hearing no discussion, we will now move to a majority vote by voice. All those in favor of approving his request, say aye.
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 Thank you. And all those opposed say nay. Very well. The ayes have it, and Daniel Massoud, our senator at large, is excused from his position and will be stepping down. I conducted a brief exit interview with him, and in the future, I hope that if we do establish a standing transition committee, the committee can also be a part of that process, just to help debrief and help the association gain experience. Next, we have several resumes that were attached to previous email for nominations both from the president and potential arbitrators who want to be nominated by the Senate. Hopefully you guys all had the chance to review them, but in consideration of the candidates' time, I would like to bring them before the Senate first. So if there are any nominees who are present in this meeting, and would like to speak about their candidacy for Judicial Council, please ask to be recognized. Once again, any Judicial Council nominations, if you're here in the Zoom meeting.
I spoke last week, so I mean, I think I have it covered, but thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Permission
Hi,
to be
Mr.
recognized.
Chairman. May I request the floor?
Never mind then.
Oh, sorry, Sam. So Lauren, you may be recognized. And
Okay.
why don't you tell us a little bit about why you want the Senate to appoint you to Judicial Council?
I apologize, Sam. I guess we both had the same intention. Okay, so hello, my name is Lauren Wolf, and I'm a junior majoring in art and minoring in psychology at Rutgers Newark. I'm interested in joining the Judicial Council because I want to contribute my ideas to it, and I want to listen to what the council is about and all that. So I know a little bit about the council. I heard about it when I was applying for my senator position last fall. Yeah, last fall. So during November-ish. So they told us about Judicial Council, and if I wasn't elected then, I was thinking of joining Judicial Council. Since I'm not elected now in the Senate, I'm interested in joining it now. Speaking of that position, I was a community outreach senator for the little bit of the fall, like November, December, November, and then in the spring for the entire duration. So I've learned many things here in SGA. I love SGA. I feel like I contributed the best that I could to SGA, and I want to continue to do that, but in a separate council, as in Judicial Council. As in terms of time and all that, I am pretty free during COVID because I'm not working. The only thing I'm working on is my schoolwork, and I am involved in a few clubs, but I have been able to time manage around them in the past, and I feel like I could do this now with Judicial Council. So yeah, that's everything. Thank you, and I rest my time.
Thank you very much, Lauren. Are there any questions for Lauren regarding Judicial Council? All right. Hearing no questions, Sam, if you would like to speak about your candidacy for Judicial Council.
Hi, thank you. So yeah, I'm interested in the chief arbitrator position, and this is my first semester here at Rutgers. I'm a transfer student. I'm a junior studying poli-sci and international affairs. I am on the pre-law track, and I have spent the past 4 years in between my time at my past school working at a law firm that focuses on corporate immigration, specifically for the tech industry. So I do have some legal background there, so I'm kind of used to, I guess, what the processes of the Judicial Council could entail. And while I haven't served on student government before, I was involved in the executive board for the Pan-Hellenic Council at my last school, and I was actively involved in a lot of other clubs, committees. And given the opportunity, I hope that I can bring forward my unbiased opinion
as chief arbitrator, and I would look forward to getting acquainted with the bylaws and working to improve the function of the Judicial Council along with my co-arbitrators. And I understand the role that it will play in the upcoming election process, and I'm excited to work with everyone on that. And aside from that, I would be looking forward to getting to know everyone and working together. And thank you. I yield my time.
Thank you very much, Sam. So we now have had all the resumes sent out. If anyone has any questions for the arbitrators or the nominees, you may ask them now. Just ask to be recognized.
May I be recognized, Mr. Chairman?
Of course, recognized.
So this is a point of information question posed to actually the president. What are the requirements for being chief arbitrator?
So I will ask, before Dylan gets into that, I do ask that all the senators please take the time to review the charter and bylaws since they are the governing documents for our association. It is also listed within the agenda itself.
Okay, so I'll just answer that question. All right, so obviously to be chief arbitrator, you need to kind of, well, I mean, historically, Judicial Council hasn't done too much, but you know, we're looking to fulfill like the role that it should have. So the chief arbitrator should kind of manage the group. There are a lot of things in there listing like deciding the dissent opinion, who's going to write what, making decisions. I'm thinking like the point of contention here, like there might be a question on, I think there's one section stating in order to be eligible, the chief arbitrator must serve 2 semesters. So the way that that's worded, I interpret it as, and how it's been interpreted, is that they have to commit to serving the 2 semesters so that we have the chief like stay, you know, and I mean, all the appointments are for 2 semesters, but it's kind of like the chief needs to commit for the 2 semesters to kind of get things going and manage that. Maybe that was what you were asking about specifically. I don't know. I just assumed because like that's the one wording thing that I considered.
May I be recognized?
Recognized, speaker.
Thank you. Yeah, so the way that I actually interpreted that was completely different. I believe my interpretation, and we can, I don't know, but my interpretation was that in order to become chief of arbitration, you must have served previously for 2 sessions or the full academic year as stated in the article, section 1.
So I considered that too. I was thinking about that, but then thinking back like the years, you know, I've served in SGA. It's just like, I don't think that's the interpretation because realistically, that's very hard to do, especially with how Judicial Council has functioned. And it would have the past tense, and it would also have words like, you know, keywords like previously or have served. But it's kind of just alluding to like a commitment to serve for 2 semesters in order to be eligible in the present tense.
Unfortunately, this is the exact reason which we need a Judicial Council for. Could we have the specific section and bylaw put in the chat for language that is being addressed?
So Article 2, Section 1 says, to be eligible for the position of Chief of Arbitration, that individual must serve on the Judicial Council for the duration of 2 sessions or a full academic year.
Okay, thank you.
So meaning for that full year, they should serve on the Judicial Council. I don't think it mentions anything about them being at Rutgers for like 2 sessions or 2 semesters.
That's the way that I'm reading it as well, since it says must serve, which I think
yeah,
is
so
intended
it's
to be
for
future
present
tense.
tense. or future
Um,
tense. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to call upon our advisor, Dean Williams, for her interpretation of this.
Hello, can you all hear me? My connection's a little off. Hi.
Hello.
So just to be clear, the question is about the status of the chief arbiter in relation to the Judicial Council and previously having served on the council, correct?
Correct.
Okay. So my understanding is that the individual should have previously served on the Judicial Council. However, because the Judicial Council was not active for the past semester, I think it's up to the association to make a determination as to how you all want to elect this position, despite the fact that your own constitution was not necessarily compliant with the practice, if that makes sense. So because you didn't have the Judicial Council in place in the same capacity, there's no expectation that you'd be able to fulfill that role in the absence of having it.
Point of recognition, Mr. Chairman.
Recognized.
So to kind of answer your question, from my knowledge, I wasn't on SGA last semester, but I've been catching up on a lot of things. And there was a Judicial Council, and actually one of the previous Judicial Council members who has served for a full academic year reached out to me wanting to be, and he's actually one of our Senate nominees. So there are people who have served and who have not graduated that have served a full academic year that would meet the requirement stated in the bylaws. I don't know if this kind of answers your question.
I'm not sure who you're referring to. I'm just being clear, I don't know who you're referring to because I do advise the Judicial Council, so I'm not sure who you are referring to. Was this for the past academic year or the previous academic year? So was this 2019-20 or 19-8 or 18-19?
No, 2019-2020. Like last semester, last year.
Request to be recognized.
Recognized.
Okay, so I think she's alluding to Daniel Massoud, who's, I guess, stepping down from the Senate, and a senator is nominating for Judicial Council. So I do know that Daniel was appointed to Judicial Council before, but to my knowledge, Judicial Council really didn't do anything the last academic year. It was inactive. So.
Okay.
I think my computer's not really you all.
I believe the senators want to nominate, or one of our senators is stepping down to serve in Judicial Council and has previous experience with that. So that was the point of contention. Seeing that we are at 12:49, I hear a motion to extend our meeting.
Motion to extend the meeting.
By how long?
15 minutes.
15 minutes? Okay. It has been motioned to extend our meeting by 15 minutes. Do I hear a second?
A second.
Okay. It will now be put to a 2/3 vote. If our secretary would do the roll call.
I'm sorry, I don't know. I just need to interrupt really quickly.
Yeah.
The students who are up for nomination have not been cleared academically or for disciplinary.
Okay. Thank you, Dean Williams.
Mr. Chairman, permission to recognize.
Recognized.
I think some of us, I mean, at least for myself, I have a class at 1 o'clock.
Okay.
and I'm required to be there. So
Yes.
may I be excused at 1 o'clock if we extend it?
Yes. Yeah, we can have a motion to adjourn. So, is there a motion to amend the extension to 10 minutes? Do I
Motion
hear?
for 10 minutes.
Okay, so it's been motioned by Zahra to amend the extension to 10 minutes. Do I hear a second?
I second that.
Okay, all those in favor of changing the extension to 10 minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All those, fantastic. All those opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Okay, so the ayes have it. The motion before the floor right now is to extend the meeting by 10 minutes. We can do this either by roll call or we can do yes or no. Are you guys all present? Can you guys click the yes button or no button?
Wait, Harrison, what are we supposed to do?
All right, why don't we try it by yes or no instead of roll call, just to make the best use of our time. Sorry, Secretary. So all those in favor of the extension by 10 minutes, just click yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Tonanzi. Okay, and all those opposed, click no. All right, we're still not seeing a lot of people clicking yes or no, so we're going to have to do it by voice. So if our secretary would be willing to do the roll call.
Yes, of course. Okay. Tonanzit?
Yes.
Okay, Tanvi?
Yes.
Miriam William?
Yes.
Okay, Adele?
Yes.
Miriam Habib?
Yes.
Zara?
Yes.
Aziza Malik?
Yes.
Afnan?
Yes.
Akwe?
No.
Okay. Sakita?
Yes.
Robert?
Yes.
Swetha?
Yes.
Right. Naveen?
Yes.
Carlos?
Yeah.
Giovanna? Oh, sorry, she's not here. Mira?
Yes.
Camila?
Yes.
Okay. Ricky?
Yes.
Sarah? Sarah?
Feel like an abstention.
Okay. Let's see. So we definitely have more yeses.
With 15 votes in favor and 1 vote against, the meeting has been extended by 10 minutes, with 5 readings remaining. Do I hear a motion to postpone the appointments of judicial counsel to the following meeting?
Motion to postpone the nomination of the Judicial Council for next meeting.
Okay, do I hear a second?
I second.
Okay.
second that.
Okay, it's been motioned by Zahra and seconded to postpone the appointment of judicial counsel until the next meeting, which will be October 12th. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
And all those against say nay. All right, the ayes have it, and the Judicial Council nominees will be postponed yet again to October 12th, our following Monday meeting. Before we get into old business, and if anyone wishes to make a motion to draw me back to agenda, feel free to do so. But we have a request to be excused from Giovanna Castaneda, our Student Affairs Senator. This does not require a second. It is debatable and amendable. But hearing any discussion from the floor. Okay, hearing no discussion, we will now move to a majority vote by voice. All those in favor of the request to be excused for Giovanna Castaneda, our Student Affairs Senator, say aye.
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 Okay. And all those opposed say nay. Thank you. And all those opposed say nay. Okay, the ayes have it. And we are accepting Giovanna Castaneda's request to be excused and stepping down from the Student Affairs Senator position. If at any point anyone would like to conform to the agenda, you may call for an order of the day, but I'm just going through right now. Continuing along, excuse me. We also have, okay, so Adele is currently present, so we will be disregarding that. Before we move on to the next matter, I request to be excused from Senator Ken Nelson, University Senator Ken Nelson. This does not request a second, as he has reached out, but this is debatable and amendable, and this is the current motion before the floor. If the Senate wishes to conform to the agenda, you may call for an order of the day. But otherwise, the motion before the floor is a request to be excused from University Senator Ken Nelson. Is there any discussion regarding this motion?
Mr. Chairman, point of information.
Yes.
So Ken Nelson, he reached out to you and informed you that he's going to resign.
Yes, he is requesting to be excused, and this was sent maybe about 15 minutes ago.
Okay, gotcha.
If you do not wish to address this matter, you may call for an order of the day and we will move forward to the bill.
Is it possible for us to postpone this matter for the next meeting?
Very much. Do I hear a motion to postpone? Does another university senator wish to be recognized? The motion before the floor is still the request to be excused from University Senator Ken Nelson.
I second that.
Thank you, Senator. Since it is from him, it doesn't need a second. We're just waiting on any further debate or discussion before we move forward to a majority votes. Okay, hearing no discussion, we will move forward to majority votes. All those in favor of accepting University Senator Ken Nelson's request to be excused, say aye.
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 Okay. And all those opposed say nay. Very well. The ayes have it, and University Senator Ken Nelson is excused from his position. As per the charter, the president will be nominating someone to fill the position until the elections at the end of the year. As such, the bill for impeachment of Ken Nelson is now out of order, and we are open for public comments from the SGA as well as the public. Do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Thank you guys very much. And yeah, good luck in class. And if there are any further questions, of course, feel free to reach out in the chat. All the minutes and agendas are available via Google Drive. Thank you all for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye,
Bye,
everybody.
everyone. Have a great week.
Take care now.
Bye, everyone.